All right, so for Bible, here's what I want. I want you to interview at least 5 other people. And in this interview, you're going to be discussing identity and what God's truth is about you as an individual. And how that also impacts your relationships with other people. I'm going to show you what I mean. So this will be in the assignment that you get a chance to make a copy of this for yourself. And these are the questions that you're going to ask other people. You're going to have it where you ask them, what does the word identity mean to you? And I want them to give their first impression, their honest answer of what does identity even mean? I want to hear their answer. Then we have, how do you determine your identity? In other words, what do you find your identity in? And what I mean by that, like for me, when I was younger, I found my identity by being really smart. I found my identity by being the good girl, by following the rules. I found my identity in my job, in being, like going to university and having a degree. And so I found my identity in that. I also found my identity in how much I helped other people and how involved I was in church. All those different things, or even like as far as how many friends I had, how well liked was I by other people. All those different things were things that I found my identity in. And I'm realizing that that's not true. And it's funny because I knew that, obviously, that those are not what I should be finding my identity in. But I still did. I still found my identity in those things. And so I'm learning to realize that my identity is not found in any of that. It can only be found in God and what His truth is about me. And so that means I can find my identity in His love for me, His love that never changes, His patience with me, His concern, His compassion for me, all those different things. But like His love is what defines me, period. That's it. Nothing else can define me. And so I want to find out what other people think as far as how do they determine their identity? Where do they get their identity from? And then also I want to see you ask them, who does God say that you are? I want to hear what they hear, what they say. What is their perspective? Who does God say that they are? Are they only on their best day good enough, or are they seen as good, as holy, as loved, as a joy, as strong and mighty, all those different things? Is that how God sees them, or is that only when they're performing well, when they're behaving well? And so I want to know what their answer is to that. Number 4, what are some core truths that you feel define you no matter your behaviors? I kind of touched on that with number 3, but that would be the truths that you can hold on to no matter what. That means that, like, even for me, I've talked about my journey with anxiety and how I have my moments when I feel really anxious, but yet that's not who God made me to be. That's not who I actually am. I can have anxious moments where I start worrying, but the core truth of who I am is that I am not an anxious person. I am peaceful. I am confident and strong in the Lord. That's who I am. Because when Jesus died on the cross, my old nature died with him. So that means the new me is filled with everything that God is. And so that means God's not insecure. God is not anxious. He's not worried. So that means the core of who I am, she's fine. She's strong. And I can have compassion on myself when I don't feel great, when I feel anxious and worried. But I can remind myself the core truth of who I am: strong, mighty, peaceful, joyful, all of that. How can you live your life in a way that matches who God says you are? What would living according to his unchangeable truth look like in your own life? So you're basically just asking these questions word for word, how I have it here. And so knowing that, let's say for me, if I know that who I am at my core is someone who is strong and mighty, someone who is filled with joy and peace, then what would that look like to live my life in a way that I am honoring the fact that who I actually am is strong and courageous, peaceful and joyful. What would that look like? How would that change the way I make my decisions? How would that change the way I think, the way I talk, the way I act? What would change? What would that look like on a day-to-day basis? I want a thought out answer. And then last of all, what are ways you can honor the truth about how God sees someone else and show them his love, especially when you're upset with them. So this is getting down to the identity thing as far as God's love, not your behavior, not your decisions, although those are important and those can have consequences, both positive and negative. But ultimately, those things don't define you. What defines you is God's love. And that is the only thing that can define you. And so with that being said, that means that for other people, even when I'm upset with them, the truth is that God still loves that person. And so sometimes showing love to them will look different. Sometimes that might be putting up a firm boundary. That might be confronting them. Sometimes that might be just forgiving and letting go. Sometimes that might be, instead of saying anything, you show compassion, you show grace, you're gentle with them. It can look different. There's not a one size fits all solution for any situation. There just isn't. You have to be able to walk in relationship with God. But with that being said, is when you're upset with someone else, that's going to happen. And sometimes tough decisions need to be made. Sometimes tough conversations need to happen, or boundaries need to be put up, and that's okay. But what would it look like to show love to someone and even handle those tough conversations in a way that still shows that you value that person and that you are still showing God's love to them, that you still realize that no matter what, they are radically loved by God and that you're going to do the same. So what would that look like? What would that sound like? How would you approach, let's say, those times when you're really upset with a friend or a family member? How would you approach that? How would you handle that in a way that is honoring who they actually are in Christ and not just how you feel? So hopefully that makes sense. You can have it where you let me know if it doesn't and if I need to clarify anything. But keeping in mind, you need to interview at least 5 different people, write their answers down. What you could do is you could have it where, like my perspective, have it where, let's say you're going to interview Aunt Karen. I don't actually even have an Aunt Karen, but let's say you're going to do that. So then you would do that. You would write their answers. Then let's say you're going to copy, oopsies, you're going to copy and paste the questions. And let's say you're going to now interview Uncle Bob. And then you would write the same questions down. And then you would have it where you ask them the same questions and have it where they write their answers down. So you're going to keep doing that until you've interviewed 5 different people. And then what you will do as the 6th person, you're going to write your own answers. So I should see 6 different interviews, including the one with yourself, in your document when you share it with me. You are also allowed to videotape it. So if you are not wanting to write all of it down, what you could do is have it where you just have the questions in front of you and you ask them to the person and you record and you just videotape their answers. You can also have it, like, I know you're not able to go out and go to people's places as much, so maybe you're going to phone them, give them a phone call and interview them that way. So get creative and let me know if you have any questions about this. Have fun with it.